dear sister. I hope that you are well. The recent caravans of soldiers have yet to bring me any word from you since my last letter. I hope to speak with you very soon, as I have much to tell you, including the fact that you now have a sister-in-law and a baby niece. Now I know what you'll say. These snowy mountains are no place to raise a family, of course. I do hope to regain favor among the higher ranks so that I may leave this frozen waste soon. I love you though, dear sister. Please write back to me at your earliest convenience. Sincerely, your brother, Hawthorne. Welcome back, everyone, to our RimWorld mining empire. Today, my friends, I bring you a tale of action and a little bit of adventure. We got a lot going on today, so stay tuned. Things are very dark and quiet around the mining empire today. We're harvesting a little bit of crops, playing with some of our young children and educating them correctly, of course, just before, of course, we begin a massive strip mining operation inside of our mountain. It's time that we finally live up to the Mining Empire title. As our slaves, slave away in the mines, we can reap the beautiful benefits of all the slate and other types of minerals that they're actually harvesting for us, as well as some of the beautiful decorations that we're forcing Happy Oak to make for us for our beautiful rooms. Now, speaking of beautiful rooms, we have decided today that we should give the prison a little bit of a makeover. Now, we are terrible, dystopian, fascist people, but if we don't have a decent prison, it's going to be very hard to recruit others to become soldiers at some point, so we need to start working on that now, so in the future we'll have it ready. Something that we did not expect, however, was Happy Oak to have a damn heart attack right out there in the crop field. Beyonder came to his rescue quite quickly, showing that the slaves are really sticking together, as the soldiers really did not care. Beyonder did manage to sneak into the medical room and steal some herbal medicine to use on Happy Oak, thankfully, as without authorization from the captain, this technically was not allowed. However, if they were to find out that Happy Oak is having these medical issues, he very well may be killed, or they may sell him to some very nasty people. Now, some time later, we received word from a local marshal service commander who actually stated they had intel about a rebel caravan nearby. Hawthorne thought this the perfect opportunity to try and earn a little bit of glory and whatnot, so he ordered 2 of our soldiers to go out and take on the caravan. The caravan, of course, is most likely some type of resource caravan, or they very well may be smuggling some alcohol, some bootlegged alcohol, as well as weapons, or really anything, so they need to be stopped regardless, but of course Hawthorne is all in it for the glory and the reputation. The 2 soldiers who went, of course, were Vern and Sandra. The 2 of them seemed to be competing for Hawthorne's right-hand man position, essentially. They're both taking a lot of initiative lately. Assuming they survive this mission, one of them very well may at some point receive the promotion of lieutenant, which would be very interesting to see. That is assuming, of course, they both survive this. One of them or both of them very well may die. We are very outnumbered at this point. Even their Muffalo were trained to attack. It was quite impressive, but we didn't have time to think about how impressive it was as we were trying to kill them. As they chased after us, we did manage to knock down all 3 of those damn dirty gun-carrying beasts, and then we had to move on to the soldiers, of course. Lucky for us, rebel soldiers don't really receive the same high-quality training as us martial soldiers, so though we were outnumbered, we were much more elite in our shooting skills and things like that than they were, giving us the upper hand. Now, of course, with that being said, though, Sandra and Vern were both very injured, though. But as you can see, it would appear our suspicions were correct as well. These Muffalo were carrying several different types of weapons, mortar shells, and plenty of bootlegged alcohol. Those dirty, filthy rebels, those drunken bastards. Unfortunately, as well, as we were fighting off several rebels, one of them managed to light our helicopter on fire, destroying it after quite a bit of time before we could rush back to extinguish those flames. Which unfortunately also meant that Sandra and Vern would have to hoof it all the way back to base. Luckily though, we would still be able to carry the majority of the weapons and whatnot, as well as the alcohol. Not for drinking purposes. Prohibition is still going on throughout this land, meaning it must be disposed of properly. So not too long after Sandra and Vern returned, we decided to go about doing so. And of course, the best way to cleanse our holy empire of the plague of alcohol is by fire. I know what you're thinking. Holy empire, holy land, Rat Night. What are you? They killed refugees, innocent refugees in episode 1. Well, look. Nobody's perfect, okay? Now, some of the weapons that we got from the caravan actually used toxic gas against their enemies. It's a good thing that we found these smuggled weapons, and I think that they'll go perfectly with a comment left by our good friend Emperor Jilp, who suggested this exact thing, that we would use gas against the rebels. So once again, thank you, Emperor Jilp, for your wonderful suggestion. I do agree that it does fit with our World War I/World War II kind of environment that we have going on here. And it's an amazing thing that we actually found these smuggled toxic weapons before they were able to use them against us or any other martial service, especially us being under the mountain. With a proper raid/siege against us and those toxic weapons, they could kill all of us. And I also found that this was put very well in a comment left by our good friend Braden Bartley, who stated, "A mountain can be safety, but it can also become a tomb." This comment, of course, is less of a suggestion and more of just kind of a statement or a fact, and I just thought it was wonderful and I wanted to share it with everyone, so thank you, Braden, as well. In the meantime, though, Vern looked at his son Severn and decided that he's 4 years old now. It's about time that he equip a weapon, right? This is about the ripe age for a child soldier. So we sent him into the armory and let him put on a helmet and grab a rifle. Ah, Daddy and Mommy's little child soldier. They grow up so fast. Now, speaking of soldiers, we ended up having a hungry, cold, and angry pack of man-hunting grizzly bears who were coming to kill our soldiers. Now, of course, the grizzly bears easily fell to the might of the RimWorld Marshal Service, just as we expected them to. However, we were kind of surprised that they held up as well as they did. They were able to take several bullets before dropping to the ground, and even before dying. This kind of put it in the idea of Hawthorne that maybe these beasts could be better for just food. He began looking into ways to use them around the mining empire, as well as possibly using them in combat. Since the loss of our scout helicopter to the rebel caravan, Hawthorne has also been working on some schematics for a much larger and improved helicopter. The only problem with that is it requires a lot of components, which we do not have, so we're going to send out our very own small caravan to trade with some local settlers. It took a little while, but they finally arrived and traded with them. After returning, they had bought 30 components from the settlers, which was perfect. We could now start on this new schematic for a helicopter that Hawthorne had planned. The new design would be much more fuel efficient than the last, but better yet, it would be much larger and would be able to carry much more weight, as well as many more soldiers. The scout copter could only carry 2 people at a time, while the new helicopter can actually carry 8 people, as well as other cargo. Of course, Hawthorne is still not going to overlook the massive blunder between Sandra and Vern of losing the last one, preventing either of them from receiving a new ranking at this time. Speaking of the settlers that destroyed our scout helicopter, they have arrived nearby to try and siege our mining empire. It would appear that they were still just a tiny bit sore about us killing all those soldiers and killing those muffalo and just completely destroying their caravan. I'm not sure why they would hold a grudge about that, but here they are. They began firing some massive bombs at our mining empire. Luckily though for us, with the majority of our base being under the mountain, it was very hard for them to actually hit us. However, they did manage a few lucky shots near our generator. With that being said though, Hawthorne devised a plan that he would lead his soldiers against them in battle. So he and the other soldiers began marching off between the 2 small hills where they were hiding. Hawthorne of course began shooting several canisters of toxic gas at them in the hopes that this would knock them out or just flat out kill them essentially. The only problem was with the toxic gas canisters that we were firing at them, it would take several canisters before the effects would really take hold. So unfortunately during this time, Hawthorne was shot several times and gravely wounded. He was quickly rescued by Beryl, and Sandra, eager for the rank of lieutenant, rushed in to grab the gas canister launcher to begin firing at the rebels. However, she was also wounded during battle, and the entire team of soldiers began rushing back home. With the captain very injured and things looking very bleak, Vern stepped up to the plate. He ordered all 3 of our slaves into the armory, and he would force them to actually pick up arms against the rebels to help us in this endeavor. Under normal circumstances, this would be considered treason, but given the situation, I suppose he felt it very necessary. I know what you're thinking, this is a bit stupid of them to do this. However, take into consideration, the slaves are very outnumbered, and one of the slaves, Happy Oak, is almost 90 years old, so they hardly see him as a threat. Anyhow, he's more of a body. Sure, he is a body who can hold a gun and pull a trigger, but with the sight and strength of a 90-year-old, so he's not too much of a threat, in their eyes at least. As the rebels slept in the warm sun, whether it be from the gas poisoning they're all suffering from, or firing at us for a day and a half straight, Vern positioned all of our men and began heading towards them, where he would then throw a Molotov at their bombs, igniting them. These ignited bombs, of course, would go off, killing several of the rebels sleeping nearby them. Thankfully, just as predicted, we did end up killing several of them. Unfortunately, the other bombs nearby did not go off, but we would come in to finish the job. Vern led the soldiers and the slaves in a bit of a strafe maneuver around the invading rebels, firing at them the entire time until all of them were dead except for one lucky son of a bitch who managed to get away, unfortunately. Happy Oak had him in his sights, but unfortunately, as mentioned earlier, his aim is not what it used to be. Vern had not anticipated that during the battle several of our soldiers would be injured while hardly any of our slaves would be, meaning our slaves have a ripe opportunity on their hands while they're armed. Remembering Happy Oak's words though, Verkot decided to give up his arms and surrender. However, Beyonder harbored fresh anger from the death of his lover recently. However, after realizing that he was vastly outnumbered without Verkot or Happy Oak's help, he also decided to surrender his weapons. Briefly after that, we also took one of the rebels prisoner. The idea here would be to try and brainwash them and convert them over to the marshals. If not, there is always the possibility of enslaving them, and if that fails as well, we could just execute them. And as we take a look around, a very chaotic and bloody scene lie in the ruins of this failed siege. The fruit of their labor with this siege ended up being to knock out power to the base with a well-placed mortar shell and to injure the captain, who is feeling much better now as well. So in other words, their efforts were entirely in vain. Well, at least in the perspective of the RimWorld marshals. But now with the ever-looming threat of a siege out of the way, there was still a bit of business to attend to. The rank of lieutenant. Who would receive this? Sandra performed very well during battle, taking Captain Hawthorne's place with the toxic gas launcher. However, Vern also done extremely well by arming the slaves, even though that is a treasonous move any other time. So Captain Hawthorne ceremoniously rewarded Vern with rank of lieutenant for his valiant efforts in defeating the rebels who were sieging us with armed slaves, essentially, as well as soldiers. Not only that, but being able to easily control the slaves after arming them as well. All these factors combined truly show the leadership capabilities of Vern, only to be outmatched by Captain Hawthorne himself. This was truly a momentous day for him. After a long and harsh journey through the winter winds on foot, Shortus and Oakley have both finally arrived at a local rebel outpost. The guard quickly waved the both of them through, and then they entered the camp. The two of them would need to travel through several different sections of the camp before arriving at their true destination. After a bit more walking, the two of them finally arrived at a makeshift cabin in the center of the camp. Working out of this makeshift cabin was none other than Tree and Bacchus themselves. Finally, we see our heroes once again. They were very excited at the sight of Shortus returning. However, they were also extremely startled, shocked, and very puzzled by what he told them next. Happy Oak was alive. Guys, we have winded down to the end of the episode here, and I would just like to thank you all ever so much, of course, for watching. I do apologize. I realize that this video is a little bit shorter than what we're used to with this series, and I just didn't have a lot of time this week, so I do apologize. I've got quite a bit going on with my day job and things like that, and also, to be honest with you, I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. You could probably hear it throughout this video, but I have a bit of a stuffy nose, right? So I don't know if it's some type of allergies or something, or like a throat cold coming on, but it really sucks ass. So it's kind of deterred me a little bit. Obviously, you know, a throat cold shouldn't deter me that much, but you know, it's just kind of made me feel a little down. I'm not feeling like moving around or anything, so it kind of sucks ass. But I'm gonna do my best with it, and I hope to try and have another episode out sometime by the end of the week. But thank you guys ever so much for watching. I love you guys, and you guys are awesome as always. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.